Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for this session. It was a great time the last time we had a session like this, and tonight will be no exception. I can assure you that we have a very beautiful package for us tonight. And without any further waste of time, I'm going to introduce our facilitator for tonight. And she is, by name, she's Theresa Gaffney, and she's an esports professional with 10 years of experience in content management, coaching, and league administration. She began her career at the Collegiate StarLeague in 2011 as a writer covering StarCraft 11 events, later transitioning into the role of editor-in-chief for all league titles. She developed CSL into the premier destination for college sports news until 2018, when she moved into a role with Harrisburg University, managing the creation of new social media content and channels for the nation's first fully funded collegiate sports team. Since 2019, she's been working as a freelance consultant and nationally recognized coach for Messiah University's esports program, where she's also completing graduate work in mental health counseling. She hopes to apply her knowledge of competitive gaming to clinical settings in the future with her work at metacognition.gg. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please make warmly welcome Theresa as she runs us through the session for this evening. Welcome, Theresa. Please take the floor now.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the great introduction, Emmanuel. I'm so glad to be here today. It's been a pleasure working with Africa Esports Series so far to talk about a variety of topics that affect all gamers, but especially our gamers in Africa. And today we're going to take some time to explore mental health in esports. I think it's a critical topic in our world today to pay attention to our mental health, but also let's take some time to do that for gamers because their experience is unique and their stresses are different. And the things they want to achieve are, big. And I think that is enough to make this worthwhile to listen to. So I'm going to have a presentation to show, and I think that it will be helpful if you can follow along there. And in the chat, if you have any questions, you can type in the YouTube chat, and I will try to get to it after, I go through these slides. And I think that it will be helpful if you do ask the questions, because this will be our time together, and it'll be easy to, get what you want out of this service. So without further ado, I'll be loading up my PowerPoint, and you will be able to see it through my Zoom share. So let's see. Here, share screen with PowerPoint. Okay. So if there's any issues with seeing what I'm seeing, just let me know. Here we go. So yes, so this session for the next 45 minutes or so will be about mental health in esports, building stronger minds for better players. This is my team currently here, the Overwatch team hanging out. They just had a tournament this weekend. They came in second in Pennsylvania. They're really great. We're building better gamers by building a good space for their mental health. So why focus on mental health in general? Why do this? There are several aspects to esports that are unique that we need to look at. So the first one would be that we are assisting in life stage development. So life stage development means we're meeting the students where they are. So students generally are the population that I work with, but it could be, non-students too. Esports players tend to be younger. The average age of a player is somewhere between 18 and 24, the competitive side, and many pro players retire by 25. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's generally this cap in terms of life needs. So a lot of gamers try to retire by 25 because they're looking to take their next steps in life. 25 is a good time to finish college, look for your career outside of esports. And also response time in terms of physical goes down after a certain point too. It's not a universal concept. There are plenty of gamers that are older than 25, especially in Street Fighter. There's, a lot of gamers who are in their 30s and still performing just as well. But in terms of other games like League of Legends and Overwatch, you look at the pro teams, they're skewed to a younger age. So when we focus on mental health in this age group, we want to make sure that we're helping emerging adults become successful. And we don't want them to simply, focus on esports alone. Esports alone is not going to make their lives better. They need to have a well-rounded life, right? So that will connect to something later on. The last point here, creating a game life balance. So when we're working with younger students, younger players, we want to encourage them to not just be good gamers, but be good all around people, and make sure that they're not overly identifying with esports and they have other aspects of their personality that they're developing. It's just a healthy way to live. So I think that's the first and most important part of focusing on mental health in esports. We want to make sure our gamers are healthy. So the next one would be lowering stress levels. We're lowering stress levels because we're playing in a competition, right? We are all competing. We're playing a tough game against others, and it can be frustrating. If you are watching this right now, I'm sure there's been a time in your life that you've played a game and gotten mad, all right? You're not even on a team and you're angry. Try competing on the professional level and doing that to an audience, and then maybe losing, and then feeling all of those feelings. How can we make that a better experience for our players? Competition's tough. Coping skills can help players perform and feel better. So when we are looking at esports psychology and mental health there, we want to focus on having our players deal with stress more effectively. There are a lot of techniques we can go there. It can go from anything from, mindfulness, breathing exercises. It could be a team building, rapport building, but we need to focus on lowering stress at that team level and individual level in order for them to perform better. A lot of stress in your life can build up. Chronic stress can deteriorate your physical health too. And a physically healthy gamer is going to be a better competitor. So we want to make sure that stress is normalized. It's very, very important. The next portion of my emphasis, particularly about mental health in esports, is fostering communication. So if you're playing a team game. So when I started esports, I played in StarCraft and wrote about StarCraft, and that's generally a 1v1 sort of experience. But the most popular esports nowadays are team-based games, and that's probably why esports is popular now. Teams require communication. So we, for short, when I'm coaching my team, we just call them comms. We want to build better comms. Better comms equals more wins. A player who is not really feeling good about themselves or the world, they're not going to communicate well with their teammates. If they're not feeling mentally healthy, how are they going to communicate with others in a way that makes them win? How are they going to feel good about working with others? So it's important when we look at mental health in our esports players, we're focusing on communication skills. We want to build those skills from an early age. Again, life stage development. We're working with younger people. We want to make sure that they can speak better to themselves and not just others. So internally, they have to communicate well, and externally, they need to communicate. So one of the futures for psychology in esports, I think, will be studying comms and how they are during competitive matches and how we can improve the language there and get more wins out of that. But it's just more about making sure our players are happy and healthy. So let's lower that frustration level. Let's work on their ability to perform in a stressful environment. So these are all very connected, as you can see so far. So the fourth point, it's kind of connected to communication as well. It's developing social skills. So gaming can help social skills, but there's also the negative side to it that it can also hurt social skills. If you game too much and you are not socializing with others when you are gaming, that becomes slightly addictive behavior. It becomes, imbalanced. We're looking for balance. Remember, the whole theme of mental health is balance. We want to develop social skills in gamers. We want to make sure that when they are communicating with others, they're doing it healthy, but they're balancing it with other areas of their life. There are interventions that can be administered, and that's solutions for negative behavior. So that would be something like rage quitting or being toxic in games. So yelling at others, quitting games too early, that negatively affects our ability to win. So social skills tends to also link into conditions like autism. Autism is like a developmental concern across the lifespan. So it will affect someone for their whole life. But gaming can help people with autism learn some of these social skills that they may not inherently pick up from their environment, you know, by seeing it replicated on a screen, working with others who like the same things they like. So it's a controlled environment, and it's something they're interested in. And that's a future area of study for esports. Esports can be a way to help people develop social skills. So we're looking to, again, we're building a better person through esports. We're also managing conditions that they have already, but we're checking to make sure that they're doing well along the way. So the last point, and I brought it up throughout all of these points so far, is we're focusing on mental health in esports because we really, really want to build a game life balance for people. It's so important for them to just be a better person overall. We don't want them only playing games. We want them out there getting training, you know, going to the gym, helping their community, having a good family life in general. We want all of this at once, and we need to monitor that in a way as coaches or counselors or people just involved with gaming on a daily basis. So if you are working in a company that is working with gamers, you know, it's okay to check in, see how these players are doing, see if their lives are balanced and what they might need there. So mental health is so important. All of these aspects, and we will talk about some of them in the rest of this presentation. So some of the more specific mental health concerns that we see in esports is, you know, it's what we experience as people as a whole. So, but these are the ones that I see pop up in my discussions with gamers or parents or people involved in these organizations. It's depression, performance anxiety, anger management, chronic stress, motivation, autism, addiction, and ADHD. So depression is just an overall life condition in terms of like where we are right now. If I'm feeling pretty good, but you know, maybe in a couple of years from now, something will happen and I'll feel depressed, and that I'll meet that area of my life with, you know, the need for counseling or medication, or maybe I'll find some way to cope with it through meeting my friends in video games, and that's okay too. But we want to make sure that we're not only gaming to take away the pain, you know? So there are behaviors that people who game too much, they kind of make their depression worse. They're not doing more. They're not doing that game life balance. They're not staying healthy by going outside. They're not, you know, just meeting their family and friends. They're just kind of staying online. And I encourage people to be social online, especially during COVID era, but I think it's important to do everything in a balance. So again, depression is about meeting that balance in life. Let's not game too much and become depressed because we're just not balancing other things in life. So performance anxiety, again, that's like being on stage. And if you're a musician, I know we have some musicians in our program, maybe playing in front of people can be nerve-wracking, right? But it's the same thing for esports players. It can be really nerve-wracking if you're playing in person in front of others. But it's not just in person. It could just be in a competitive match online. The stakes are high, and then you get anxious about that, and you perform poorly because you don't know how to manage anxiety in the moment. So that's a topic of concern, especially for coaches. So for myself, you know, if I feel that there's a student that is, you know, anxious, I try to work with them one-on-one to talk about, why do you feel anxious? What's making you anxious? You know, you've done this before, you can do it again. Let's find examples of things that make you feel less anxious. Can we become more mindful about the moment and less worried about the end results? Let's not worry about the future. Let's be in the present. Because anxiety is very much like depression is a very past oriented kind of feeling, like I'm depressed about things that have happened. Anxiety is like I'm worried about things that will happen in the future. So we try to keep the players' minds here in the moment. So anger management, we talked a little bit about that, and I will show you a little bit of an intervention later on. Anger management is like when you're in game and the game is really frustrating and we are mad that we're losing. We don't want to take it out on others. We don't want to take it out on ourselves. So we want to make sure that we don't have that kind of explosive feeling, because it will really affect your game. I've worked with students who just don't know how to do that. They really need to be sidelined, and they can't be on the team until they can be less angry, because I've seen that anger make people on their team demotivated. They lose motivation. They don't want to play because their teammate is angry at them. So mental health, anger management is so important. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Motivation I brought up, so that covers it. It's like we want to make sure these players are motivated positively. They're not negatively motivated, like, you have to be a better gamer or you're a loser. We want them to do this because it's going to make them feel better about themselves. And creating a winning environment mentally will help them be more successful in games. So we want to lower chronic stress. We talked about that in the last slide. Stress levels are high in gaming. Find other ways to lower that stress outside of the game. Listen to music, take a walk, talk to your friends. Don't play a game for 20 minutes. Take a break. Breaks are so important. So lowering stress, lowering that environmental concern there is important. We brought up autism. It's just the prevalence in the gaming community. The studies are still being done there. It's just interest levels. Those who are autistic tend to like games because it's an easier to control environment. They can play it, the rules make sense, and it works for them. So this is still an area of study. In the future, you'll see more results come out on these studies. And personally, I'm starting to work on that. So I don't know, hopefully in a few years, I'll be able to tell you more about what we do in our communities with autistic students and gaming, and how esports itself can help them grow their social skills. And then there's the mental health topic of addiction. Addiction comes up a lot in conversations, especially today. I'm going to save it for our next slide, though. So we're going to wait on addiction because there's a question that I know everyone's going to ask. And it's going to be, is video gaming addicting? So we'll ask in a minute. But ADHD is an attention deficit disorder. There are gamers that have attention deficit disorder, and then there are those that do not, but they like to think they do. And then they ask their doctors for medication for that. And those are stimulants. Stimulants, as you know, in sports in general, not allowed, and definitely not allowed in gaming. Stimulants can make you perform above average, above average compared to your other opponents. And that's not allowed in ESL. No. Any other tournaments? No. You can't, unless you're medically diagnosed and it's severe, you can't be on stimulants. So it's good to focus on ADHD in a natural way in the gaming environment, so you're not doing something that's against the rules of your competition. So there are non-medication ways to deal with ADHD. It's harder, but these interventions do help over time. So that's a concern that a lot of our mental health professionals will see as they go further into esports as a profession. So let's talk a little bit about my question of, are video games addicting? I didn't spend too much time on that because it's going to be a little bit of our presentation here. Addictions and mental health is so important. We look for substance abuse in mental health environments. We look for gambling addictions, and those are big topics in our field. But there's a growing concern about video games being addicting. So right now, with the research, the answer is not scientifically clear. Video games are not necessarily addicting, but games can trigger and cause addictive behaviors. When you show these behaviors that you cannot stop playing, that's addiction. Whether or not it's the game or it's the person, these are still things being studied. And I'll go more into the actual designation of internet gaming disorder in a bit. But it's not, there's no consensus yet, but you need to monitor behavior because, there's a lot of things in life that can be addicting that aren't meant to be addicting. I love coffee, but coffee can have some addicting properties to them. I like to work out, but if I work out too much, technically that can become an addiction too. So if I get a good feeling out of running that I don't get anywhere else, and I do it too much, and I can get sick. And if you play too much video games and you're not getting out and doing other things, you can also become, mentally, just not great, not great. So the reason why some games can trigger these addictive behaviors is because they're built on this random outcome structure. So if you've ever heard the term RNG in gaming, it's kind of a dirty word sometimes. Oh, RNG came in your favor. That's why you won. RNG bless. It's because random numbers are addicting. Like, we want to keep playing until we get the right number. That's where gambling comes in. You pull the slot machine or you play the card game and you hope the right card comes out. It's random, right? Random. So game has that. That can be sometimes where we focus our addictive behavior in gaming on, correcting that behavior. So loot drops, incentives, leveling up, that's all like gamification, but also random number generation. And also for those who are not mentally well at the moment, that can create the addictive behaviors. So again, game life balance. If we're healthy and balanced in our life, we will likely not be displaying addictive behaviors as much. So we start from the ground up. We get these players from when they're young. We instill these good behaviors so that, they know that they shouldn't be playing games for 8 hours a day. Maybe they need to only play for a few hours to be good. And they have to learn that the rest of it complements it. So I'm going to move on, but drop all of your questions in the chat. We're live now, but this will eventually be a VOD. And I'll make sure that I go through the questions towards the end of the session to clarify for some of these statements, because these are big. There's a lot of topics here today. So feel free to ask anything you feel like. So yeah, again, addictions depend on where the individual is right now in their life. If you're feeling bad about yourself, you're going to look for something to help you feel better. Gaming can be that. And gaming can be okay for that. It can help you. Really, it can make you feel good. And then you feel enough energy after playing some games to go, get out into the community and do something. That's fine. But if all you do is game, then that's not fine. So that's where we try to work on that balance. So setting limits is really, really important. And it's not just in gaming. Any addictions, limits, or abstinence if it's really bad. So that's the beginning of this conversation. Now, when you start working in psychology, counseling, or social work, you become very familiar with the diagnostic manual of disorders. You'll see a big purple book. It's called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And this big purple book is released, every decade or so with a new revision. So in the last version in 2013, they put a disorder called internet gaming disorder up for recommended for further study. So it means it's not a diagnosable condition yet. So internet gaming disorder is not yet a thing, but it's being studied. There's lots of studies if you look it up. And the criteria, there's 9 criteria. Every mental health disorder has criteria that people have to match. And they have to usually have at least 5 or 6 of those qualities in order to be diagnosed. And in this case, internet gaming disorder would show recurrent use of internet to play games, often with others, leading to clinically significant impairment or distress as indicated by 5 or more in the following 12 months. So it would be preoccupation with video games. They only really think about video games. They're anxious for the next game. They can't stop. Withdrawal. If they take away the game, they're craving it. They can't not play. Tolerance. They need to play more games to feel better. Loss of interest in other hobbies. Excessive use of the internet, lying to family about how much they play, and have lost jobs or friends because of their gaming. So these are all qualities that are up for discussion. There's so much debate about whether or not this is a real condition, because a lot of these qualities are addictive behaviors for anything. They're not just for games. So again, it's is the game the addictive property, or is it the person and their life at the moment? What's going on in their life as a whole? I like to ask people, what's your life like? How are you feeling? I will not ever suggest something like an internet gaming disorder until I know what else is happening for their life. So, you know, if someone ever asks you, games, are they addicting? Are they bad? Be like, well, the science is not there. So tell me more about what you're concerned about with gaming. So usually asking questions is more important than, you know, labeling. So here, IGD is not a real thing yet. So we're not going to diagnose anybody with it yet, but we will be careful about addictive tendencies in our players. Mental health is important. We don't want to do too much of anything. Game-life balance. Game-life balance. So another thing, like when I'm saying, when you're asking people questions, ask them what their motivation for playing an esport title is. Why are they playing esports? You know, ask yourself, why do you like esports? What started you in playing esports? For me, it was, you know, just a video game type that I really enjoyed. I like to be competitive, and then my friends were playing it. It was Warcraft, and before that, Street Fighter. Just fun to play against others, right? But it's not just that. Esports titles are different than other games because they encourage a mastery of skill to compete against other players. So you're not just playing games because you want to play them. You want to get better at that game. So you're building your skill level. That's a motivation, and that usually can differentiate if someone's really like addicted or trying to do something more. Are they trying to become a pro player? Are they trying to really master this game because they just really feel like it's good for their mind? What is the reason they're playing this game? Is it because their other friends are playing it? A lot of times it's like skill building. People who play esports may not be addicted. They're rather seeking to be more competitive or looking to build a career. Ask before making assumptions. So this is important in all mental health fields. We ask a lot of questions because we want the person to tell us what their life is like. And before we go and diagnose people with addictions or depression or something and blame it on esports, we really need to see what their motivations are. Because, you know, I'm not going to blame the 16-year-old who plays a lot of Valorant because they heard that they can join a pro team and make money. I'm going to ask them what motivates you? Why do you want to do that? And they're going to tell me. And then we're going to find out if it's truly something that's harming them or just something they're looking to do professionally, because it's hard to become a professional gamer, but it's still possible. So we don't want to dismiss it entirely. Ask before making assumptions. So on the other side of things, you know, not everything is bad. You know, we tend to, in mental health, worry like, is gaming bad? Mental health, it must be bad, right? When we're talking about mental health, negative, negative, negative. No, not everything is disordered. Not everything is bad. When we're talking about mental health, we're talking about strengthening. We're talking about skill building. We're talking about motivation. We're talking about game-life balance again. We're talking about making people better. There are benefits to esports and gaming. Some of the skills that I see being built in my esports players at Messiah is resilience, dedication, problem solving, teamwork. These are all qualities that help the mind grow and then, you know, become better at things that they want to do outside of esports. So important that we are making sure we're doing things that are healthy. So resilience, coming back from a loss. Dedication, meaning that they'll keep doing this even though it's hard. Problem solving, obviously gaming requires that. You can't play a game without finding new strategies and new ways to solve issues that come up in the new meta, you know, patches and things like that. There's so much of that. You see that all over. And that's why you like games too, I bet. It's just new and interesting. You make connections. And teamwork, of course. That's good for your mind. We want to be people who are team oriented. So there's other points in my research that I've done recently that show that video gaming, it actually can increase intercultural learning as well. So esports, like if you play Overwatch, let's use Overwatch as an example. An Overwatch takes place in the future, and there are people from different countries all over the world in this game. And they represent everything from Brazil to England to Nigeria. So we have a really intercultural experience there just by playing this game and being exposed to different things. So it's not only that. When you play an online game, you may play against other players in other countries. You know, I can't even name the amount of times that I wanted to go on Wikipedia just to learn about the country I was talking to someone from. It just makes me think interculturally. I'm not just in my my home in New York or Pennsylvania in the United States. I'm connected with other people across the world. I lived in Korea for a year, partially because I was really interested in studying more about esports in Korea, because it was one of the first countries to really embrace it on that bigger entertainment level. I learned, some Korean as a result too. So that my intercultural learning exploded because of esports. Loved it. And I see that in so many people. I'm sure you do too. So there's the other point of the benefits of gaming is pro-social video games. That means that it can make better aggressive behaviors. When you're playing games together, again, we talked about it, getting angry doesn't help you. You have to teamwork. You have to get together to make achievements happen. So video games can actually make you a better person if you have to learn to work with others. So pro-social, meaning it's good for social behavior. Some video games, according to research, can do that. Video games can also encourage that systems-oriented thinking. So when I brought up the idea of making connections, so my mind is going in many directions to solve a problem, that's kind of what systems-oriented thinking is. I'm not just thinking about me on the team, I'm thinking about the team as a whole, where the team is situated on the map, and how the game itself is working. So there's many levels, the systems, the whole system, not just one little person within that system. So there are really good benefits to esports and gaming, and the research is still new. We're still doing it. Let's keep that research going. Let's support people who are doing that. I think it's really important. So if you are a professional and you're working with players, what are some of the things you personally can do to help with mental health? I'm sure you're coming up with some ideas here. There's lots of things we brought up. I'm going to let you think about that for a moment here before talking, because I'm sure that you can think of at least one person in your life that you want to do a check-in on. What can we do to help them? Gaming is just a topic. It's just something that we share in common. And I think, what I say here on the first point, do continual mental health check-ins with these players that you're working with. Just talk to them. It's as simple as asking them how you're doing today. It's as simple as remembering small details about their lives and letting them have that platform to speak to you. What's going on? How's their home life? How's their relationships? How's their finances? Is something stressing them out? Is it really the gaming? We can't really work on having better and more successful players if they're really feeling bad about other things in their life. Being a concerned person is just enough. Sometimes people just need to be listened to. They need to have that ability to talk to you. So if you're working with players, check in on them. How are they doing? How are they feeling? Let's see how we can make them grow just by being supportive. So esports psychologists, there are people now working with teams on a coaching level that is not just coaching about strategy, but coaching about life skills. There are teams like Astralis and others that have esports psychologists on staff. So it's an actual job. Yeah, there's not too many of those jobs, but there are. And those are usually people who have studied sports psychology and then take those concepts and take it out to esports. So for me, studying mental health counseling, I'm hoping to do similar, but I'm doing it more on the level of, consulting and building out conversations one-on-one. Esports psychologists come in and they really help coach players about balance. So promoting rest and relaxation, trust me, that esports psychologist with Team Liquid or Australis, they're going to say, guys, you got to get 8 hours of sleep. Please do not stay up to 4 in the morning and playing games all the time. That's bad for your health. Consistent sleep-wake times, get some rest, because you're not going to be able to be in that moment in that game if you are not feeling well. So that's something you can do if you're working with players. Guys, you shouldn't be at the game cafe at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you have a competition tomorrow, are you getting enough sleep? We need you in top performance shape. So, I try to encourage my players not to do that. They have access to the esports center, but it closes by midnight for a reason, because they need to sleep. They have school and they have personal responsibilities, and, they can game in their room if they want, but I don't encourage that. I think they need sleep. I'm sure you can feel that might be hard with some of our gamers. They like to stay up late. It's just how it works. People play games after work or after school, but you gotta have a cutoff at a point. So there's the other point that we can help players with their mental health concerns by just normalizing it, just saying it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I'm not feeling great. It's okay to say, I need counseling, I need therapy, I need medication, I need something, please help. So if you're the point of contact for this player as a manager, a coach, just a friend, a family member, if you're just, seeing this person in your life that needing that help, it's okay to let them talk about it and try to encourage that. You might be the only person that they feel comfortable talking to because you share that passion for esports with them. I know I feel more comfortable talking to people that understand my life as well. So normalize it. Be open to the fact that mental health is an entire life condition. It's something that affects every area of their life, and it's not just about gaming. Let's make their whole lives better by helping them get access to the resources they need. And it's different for every country. I mean, every culture approaches mental health differently. So you might go to the United States and there's more mental health counselors than in another country, but we're still very much working on, addressing mental health in our communities. It used to be taboo a long time ago. And in some countries, it's maybe a little bit less taboo and maybe more. So, we're getting there. I think it's a universal need to check in and normalize about getting help if you need it for your mind. So we have doctors for our body, but we also have doctors for our mind. Let's point them in that direction if they need it, these players. So we talked a little bit earlier also about stress, chronic stress in our gamers. If you're constantly competing, constantly practicing, not balancing out things, recognizing those signs of stress. Please, check on your players, see how they're doing. What's going on? Are they just not performing? Are they stressed out? See what's going on. Stress can be, just being irritable. It could be, anxious. They could be, not eating. They're really just not communicating well. So recognize stress. Recognize the ways that stress, in your gamers comes out. They may not be playing their game well right now. They may be irritable in the game and lashing out. Let's ask these players what they need to feel better. It's our responsibility as leaders to have them feel better. And my final point here is just encouraging positive reframing and discourage negative self-talk. So what does that mean? Positive reframing means to take a thought that might be negative and turning it into a different frame, like putting in a picture in a broken frame and putting it into a new one and mounting it back up on the wall, and it looks better. So I'm the worst gamer of all time. I'm the worst DPS. Oh my God. I just lost 4 games in a row. I'm the worst. I'm so bad. Do you think thinking like that is helpful? Do you think that's a good gamer kind of esport player mindset? No. If you're working with this person, if you're a professional working with them, if you're a counselor or a coach or something, you want to tell them, hey, you lost 4 games in a row. It doesn't mean you're the worst DPS. What do you mean? You're top 500 in Overwatch. Just because you're, 4.3K and not 4.5K doesn't mean you're horrible. It just means you have some stuff to work on. And you're always going to lose the game at some point. You're not the only person in the team. So what you're doing is reframing this thought. Be like, instead of I'm the worst DPS player, I need work, but I'm okay. And that's okay. That's a reframe. It's more positive than negative. And you do that over time by encouraging people to think differently. So we're discouraging that negative self-talk. Do not bring yourself down when you're playing a game. I hear it all the time on Discord when I'm listening to players, or I see it and I hear it and I'm like, oh, that's my fault. I can't believe it. Oh, I'm so bad. And they start tilting. That word tilt means that they're off axis and they're going to start performing badly. They went from playing okay, now something bad happened, and now they're just like, I'm tilted. I can't do it. I give up. So discouraging the negative self-talk Well, maybe help them from tilting. We don't want them to do that. It's not good for them, not good for the team. So what I'm going to do for the last little bit of our session before I jump into the Q&A and just, vibing there and seeing what we've gotten from this discussion. I've been talking for a while. I'm going to show you something that I've developed for the Boys and Girls Clubs in Central Pennsylvania. And it's an intervention it's like psychoeducational. We talk about the topic of emotional regulation. And so this is going to be the age group of like 8 years old to like 14, because those clubs have different groupings, but it's like average 8 to 14 years old. So it might look a little bit simpler in terms of the language, but it's because, we're talking to younger kids here. So self-development, we want to make them better people. Emotional regulation, controlling our anger, controlling our emotions in general. So what I'll do if I'm talking to a group of kids and I'm concerned about mental health and I want to teach them how to recognize these signs that they're not regulating their emotions well, I'll ask them, when you're competing in a competitive game, what are some feelings you'll experience? And then I let the group kind of talk about it. There's a group of kids, they're like, oh, I don't know, I get angry, or I'm happy, or I'm excited, or I'm nervous. And then we talk about those feelings. We want feeling words out there. We want to see why they feel these feelings. And then, usually we stop when it comes to those feelings of frustration and anger and stress, because we're really trying to get to that feeling and work on it. So raging is managing anger. So we don't want people to melt down. So over here, there's I'm not going to play it right now. You can find it on YouTube. You can look for the 5 craziest esports meltdowns. So these are people getting really mad playing their games. Managing anger. You win more when you're not as angry. Trust me. I don't think it takes the rocket scientists to figure that out. So this guy can't take it. He lost. You think he's going to be, able to play his next round of Street Fighter very well? I doubt it. Because, adrenaline, cortisol, when it goes up, it's never going to go down until you take a break. And if he has to go into his next round and he's mad and he can't take a break, it's very likely that the odds are stacked against him. So we want to bring down rage. We want to bring down that raging feeling in our students when we're doing this kind of intervention. So next, how does anger affect your game? We raised that question for the group. What are your triggers? Why do you get angry? Get in control of those feelings. So we asked them, is it because other people are doing bad in the game? Or is it because you're doing bad in the game? How do you get angry? Is it when you're playing on ladder? Are you playing competitive matches? Or do you get angry when you play a quick play match? Or you just a random queue? We just try to figure out where the anger is coming from and try to focus on changing that tone, bringing down the temperature a little bit. So we talk about actual strategies with the students. What can we do to stop feeling bad? I'm mad. What do I do? I'm really angry. What do I do? Take a breath. Like right now, I've been talking for like a half hour. I need a breath. Breathe in for 4 seconds and then out for 6. So this is a practice called resonance breathing. We do it on a ratio to regulate your heartbeat over 2 minutes. That's the average time between matches. If you're just going to quickly queue up, 2 minutes, roughly speaking, you can breathe for 2 minutes. I tell my players, just chill out, breathing, deep breathing, 2 minutes, please. Because your blood is literally boiling. You cannot do this work right now. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, breathing. If you're feeling angry in a game, let's change our approach. What are we doing that's not working? Maybe we need to take a break from competing. Let's just, instead of playing ranked ladder for points, instead of doing this, let's take an arcade mode or a single player game. Let's do something else. Take a break, walk away from the game, and then come back. So aside from breathing, maybe just getting up and moving away from this game is important for these kids to manage their feelings. Because it might be their tendency at 8 or 9 years old, just keep playing. I'm mad, I'm just gonna keep playing. I'm gonna keep playing until I throw my controller across the room. And that's gonna make everybody in the family upset. No, we don't want that. Take a break, come back. Trust me, the game will still be there. But you have to tell younger kids that this is the way to be. They don't know yet. They're learning. Remember that life stage. They're still young. Okay, so also perspective checks. You know, I usually tell the players, like, you're not going to like hearing this, but it's only a game. It's annoying. But remember, you have a life to live after the game is over. Game-life balance. It's win or lose, you're still going to live. So remember that. Find a way to laugh at it. So for instance, my team this weekend at Messiah, we were playing in League of Legends and Overwatch in our state tournaments, and we beat all the competition to get to the grand finals. And we're playing Harrisburg University, the biggest team in the whole country, the most funded, well-rounded program with like pro-level players. And we're just volunteers, honestly. Scholarships don't exist for us yet, maybe in the future. But, you know, our kids love what they're doing. They love the game, trust me. So they put it their all, but you know, we laughed at it. We said, you know, it's only a game. We're playing. We're probably going to lose, but we're going to get something out of it. What's our goal? All right, I'm going to get like 4 kills on this pro player. That's a really good thing. Perspective checking. So we just also talk about toxic behaviors. Other toxic behaviors are like, you know, just not saying good things to other people. Don't talk in chat and say bad things. Trust me, that's going to make you look like a bad person. You know, try not to rage quit. Don't leave the game before you lose. It's not good sportsmanship, and it will also actually affect other people's rankings. Sometimes it may not qualify, or you know, not just for you, but for others. So negative communication, rage quitting, just makes people feel bad. And I usually cap out our conversations with the kids just saying positive communication leads to more wins. Speaking better to yourself and to others is the way to succeed. So it's when you're younger, maybe you're still learning this. You have to learn that, you know, I want to honor myself, and I want to honor others by saying nice things. I don't want to be angry. I don't want my emotions to control me. So that's a big part of mental health development. Don't let your emotions control you. Be in control of your emotions. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay. We don't want to erase your feelings, but we want to make sure that you feel better than worse. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Some references here. I think we're going to circulate the material if you're interested in reading more. But now I'm going to take a second to see if I can look at the chat. All right. So we got a few more minutes here. Okay, so as a manager for my team, I don't need my players to train 8 hours a day, right? Because it's not healthy. Asked by Hauser. No, you don't need that. Absolutely not. I can guarantee you 8 hours a day is unhealthy for most gamers. I mean, when you go to Korea and you look at the gaming camps they have there, yeah, they play for 8 hours a day, sometimes more, but doesn't mean that they're playing better. After a point, there's mental exhaustion and you stop receiving new information. You can no longer perform at the level you were performing like 2 hours before that. So I don't know what the sweet spot is 100%. It's very individualized, but you might say 6 hours, but it means that you have to have an hour break there, or maybe 8 hours, but you play for 3 hours, take a break, play for 2 hours, take a break, and then do a conference at the end of the day. So I don't know, 8 hours a day straight doesn't feel good. They don't have a life outside that. I don't know. Game life balance doesn't exist then. That's a great question. So I see Albert wants to know if limiting gaming sessions could solve many issues in mental health. If we switch from playing games to listening to music with headphones, isn't that the same as using a digital tool or just take a walk? Okay, that's a good question, Albert. So I think, you know, in terms of the question from Hauser about limiting the training, we want to do something a little bit different, right? So listening to music is a lot different than listening and playing games, right? So even if you're listening on an iPod, it's okay. Take a walk while doing that. I think that's a good suggestion. Walk away from your desk. Get up, get out, get some fresh air, eat a sandwich. I mean, you got to do something different that breaks the negative mindset, break the exhaustion, get something that is more positive into your body, channel it. We want to be good at the game, yes, but we need to switch. Let's limit it. Let's experiment with time frames It's like in school, we really only have students in school for 8 hours a day, but we don't do classes all 8 hours, at least not here. And I don't think it's possible. You have to do breaks. You have to go lunchtime. You have to go to the gym. You have to, whatever. It's just not possible. Okay, so Jonathan is asking about forfeits. There are other games that have forfeit options. Is that the same as rage quits? Good question, Jonathan. It's forfeiting depending on sportsmanship and what your opinion on forfeiting is. It could be seen as bad. So for instance, when my team played this weekend, they're pretty outmatched in the finals. They didn't forfeit because in terms of sportsmanship, it's better to just finish the game, especially in League of Legends. Like there's a 15-minute forfeit rule. You can just, if everybody agrees, you can quit. You don't do that when you're on stream. It's just better to try to play it out because it also, in some games, it's still winnable. There's times when even if you're outmatched in the first 15 minutes, the other team can make a mistake. Something can happen. It's not really rage quitting, but sometimes it can be seen like that. It's like, it makes you look a little bad if you forfeit and give up. And we don't want to encourage giving up. We want to be smart about it. Yeah, don't waste your time if you know that it's going to be a bad match. But in pro gaming, we try to avoid that rage quitting forfeit. Forfeit is different. It's just a rule. But sportsmanship, usually we play it out. It looks better. You're in control of your emotions, even though you're losing. Then we talk about why we lost after the game. Take a break and like 2 minutes between matches. Take that breathing time. Process the loss, and it's okay. So, I mean, really, it's up to you. Forfeit, you can, but it's probably not as worth it. Play it out. So I'm going to just double check on YouTube if we have any other questions here. Yeah, so gaming therapy I see brought up, play therapy. Yeah, we're working on that in terms of, esports. How can esports games help us do better at our lives in general? And again, if we're learning about sportsmanship and forfeiting, maybe we'll be more tolerant to change and tolerant to, failure. And we know that you have to fail in order to succeed, right? You can't learn anything unless you make a mistake. So in games, we learn that pretty easily because we look at our matches, we do match reviews, we do VOD reviews. We learn so much from our mistakes. So I think we're learning to tolerate that. So Emmanuel, did I miss anything here from the questions in our group?
You have been excellent tonight, Theresa, 100%. So, man, wow, this was mind-blowing for me. I know what it means to get into a game and get some beaten. It may be hard to deal with, but with topics like this, and the kind of exposition that you have given tonight, it sheds a whole new how to carry ourselves. Now, esports, don't give up. The fact that you lost the first time doesn't mean that you're going to rage quit or you're going to stop trying. I've even made it a personal mantra to always play with people that are better than I am. Because that's the only way you can get better. My daughter plays video games and she complains a lot, "Oh, Daddy, this game is too hard." And I tell her, that's how you get good at it. Just keep playing, don't stop. You got beaten today, don't worry, go back again. Of course, you'll be beaten several other times, but the more you keep at it, the more you get better at it, and it's sinking in. So it's been a very wonderful topic that you've helped us to cover tonight, Theresa. We thank you so much, and we so much appreciate the deep insights that you have provided tonight. I'm sure it's been of immense benefit to many of our listeners tonight who have tuned in to watch. Okay, let's just quickly share that with you now, Theresa, so that you can quickly give us a response to that. And the person asking the question is Yared Endali. I hope I got your name correct.
Okay. Yared.
Yeah, so Theresa, please, the question is. It's with you.
Okay, thanks, Yard. What did you recommend for gaming communities to encourage forming teams or playing with teams? So team building, that's a big part of, generating goodwill and mental health. So I recommend forming teams based around a shared goal. So when we talk about a college team, their goal is to represent their school. So when gaming communities are together for a reason, they tend to stay together longer. They do things with more altruism, and there's less negative effects. So if the goal is not just to win money, I tend to see that as a reason to get games together. So I suggest finding gaming groups in your schools, in your local communities. I think that getting pro teams together is a different motivation and a different way to form a team. Sometimes the best teams just come from a natural orientation of people who like the same thing and have the same goal of just getting good, and they want to do it for fun, and then it becomes a passion. And I think that that's kind of a healthy transition. But if we're just getting people together in teams because they want to win money, it doesn't usually like work out for the long run. You just have pro players jumping from team to team to team. So on our level here, when we're talking in the AES, local community organizations with students or young adults who are like and out there playing games in game clubs, those are good ways to start your teams. Find people on the same level, similar interests, and their goal is just simply to be better at gaming and doing it with other people that are maybe similar to them. And also there's possibilities of getting people together because they want to game for a cause. There's people who do streams here in the US for raising awareness for cancer and raising, research funding for that. You never know. Just ask the goal. Why do I want these people together? And keep them together with that goal in mind. That's the best kind of team possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that detailed response, Theresa. I'm afraid that's about all that we can take for tonight. I'm sure everyone would bear me witness that it's been an interesting conversation tonight with Theresa, who we are privileged to have speak to us tonight. Thank you again, Theresa, for making our time to be here with us. Thank you so much. And to everyone who has sent in a question, I hope you got your answers. Tomorrow is another come together again. Time is 6 p.m. GMT tomorrow. Session like this, please make it a date with us, and we will be seeing you again tomorrow. Until then, please have a very pleasant night rest. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.